Selamat siang Bapak dan Ibu. Selamat datang dan selamat datang Bapak dan Ibu dan terima kasih sudah menyempatkan waktu untuk menghadiri webinar series yang diadakan oleh PT Berca Perkasa. Webinar series kali ini berjudul Data Protection in Hybrid Data Center. Perkenalkan, saya Tita Inayah dari tim Produk Software PT Berca Perkasa yang akan memandu pada acara ini selama 2 jam ke depan. Untuk rangkaian agenda webinar hari ini akan dimulai dengan pembahasan overview yang akan dibawakan oleh Pak Raul Salvalino sebagai produk spesialis dari PT Berca Hardaya Perkasa. Dan acara akan dilanjutkan dengan pembahasan Joint Solution Enterprise Data Management Challenge yang akan dibawakan oleh Mr. Kunal Nachiketa sebagai Cloud Practice Lead dari Veritas Teknologi dan berkolaborasi dengan Mr. Kumar Nachiketa sebagai Storage Partner Solution Architect dari Amazon Web Service. Silakan dimohon untuk Bapak Ibu mengikuti webinar ini sampai akhir acara. Karena di akhir acara kita akan mengadakan kuis dan untuk pemenang pertama, kedua, dan ketiga akan mendapatkan special gift dari Veritas dan AWS. Dan jangan lupa, nanti di akhir acara saya akan menyalakan kamera. Saya akan menyalakan kamera, nanti kita bisa berfoto bersama. So stay tune until finish. Oke, untuk mempersingkat waktu, saya akan mulai presentasi pertama yang akan dilakukan oleh Pak Rosal Valino sebagai produk spesialis dari PT Berca Hardaya Perkasa yang akan mempresentasikan overview dari webinar hari ini. Kepada Bapak Rosal, kami persilahkan.
Terima kasih, Mbak Tita atas waktunya. Halo, selamat siang semuanya. Perkenalkan saya Rausal dari tim produk Berca Hardaya Perkasa yang akan memberikan overview singkat sebagai pengantar dari webinar kali ini. Hari ini kita akan ngebahas tentang data protection in hybrid data center. Oke, aku share screen ya. Oke, kelihatan? Oke. Jadi hari ini kita bakal membahas tentang data protection in hybrid data center. Overview poin di hari ini ialah oke. Jadi pertama kita akan membahas tentang data dan data center infrastructure management growth. Kemudian ada hybrid data center, data trends and challenge, kemudian what the solutions-nya. Nah, data growth. Data ini memang setiap tahunnya memang terus bertumbuh seiring dengan semakin banyaknya kebutuhan kita akan data. Terlihat pada tabel ini merupakan data growth predict year over year sampai tahun 2025 sebesar 175 zettabyte. Kemudian dengan data yang sebesar ini, kita dituntut untuk melakukan improvement dari infrastruktur kita. Nah, dengan adanya data center infrastructure management ini, kita bisa melihat nih growth-nya dari prediknya dari tahun 2019 sampai 2021. Di sini terlihat bahwa pertumbuhan untuk penggunaan data center berbasis cloud itu jauh lebih tinggi dibanding dengan tradisional data center. Ini adalah peta by regionnya. Sebetulnya gini, dari dulu sampai sekarang tradisional infrastruktur itu memang tetap ada, tapi dipakai. Namun inilah yang jadi PR besarnya kita nih untuk mengembangkan atau mengimprove infrastruktur yang ada di dalam perusahaan kita masing-masing. Dilihat di sini di gambar ini ada legendanya high, middle, sama low, dan kita berada di Asia termasuk Indonesia yang data center infrastructure manajemennya itu growth-nya cukup besar. Kenapa begitu? Karena di Indonesia khususnya untuk di bidang teknologi ya, ini pertumbuhannya memang sangat cepat gitu. Lalu apa sih itu si hybrid data center itu? Mungkin dari sekian peserta yang di sini sudah paham mengenai ini. Jadi hybrid data center itu sebetulnya adalah kombinasi antara on-premise kita dengan cloud. Dan ada hal apa aja sih yang bisa kita dapatkan ketika kita menggunakan hybrid data center untuk mengoptimalkan infrastruktur yang kita punya. Itu dari scalability, dari flexibility, dari cost saving, dari security. Dari scalability sendiri, dengan mengkombinasikan infrastruktur on-premise dengan cloud, maka kita memiliki scalabilitas yang lebih baik dari sisi performance dan storage-nya. Dari flexibility, dengan hybrid data center ini, kita menjadi lebih fleksibel nih dalam mengelola data kita, seumpama ada terjadi kerusakan data atau untuk melakukan duplikasi data menjadi lebih mudah. Dan untuk cost saving-nya sendiri sudah jelas ya kalau misalnya untuk pengeluaran dari sisi device infra, terus tempatnya juga, kebutuhan daya listrik, sampai juga ke biaya maintenance, kita bisa menghemat itu. Kemudian dari sisi security, dengan kombinasi dari masing-masing infrastruktur yang kita punya, kita seperti memiliki double protection untuk data kita sendiri nih. Dari data yang makin besar itulah muncul data trends, kemudian ada data challenge-nya. Data trends yang seperti apa? Seperti data growth kita yang semakin bertumbuh, kemudian meningkatnya virtualisasi engine, dan juga ada IT automation yang selalu berkembang. Nah, inilah yang menjadi challenge kita, gimana caranya untuk keep data supaya agar tetap tetap terjaga dan bisa diakses dengan mudah. Kemudian bagaimana caranya untuk mereduce pengeluaran kita, serta bagaimana kita caranya untuk mengimprove proteksi data dan retensinya. Lalu apa solusinya nih untuk menjawab dari challenge tadi? Ini ada key features, ada 3 poin. Pertama ada valuable insight, storage efficiency, dan security. Valuable insight ini ada di Veritas. Jadi ada produk Veritas bernama Information Studio yang fungsinya bisa membantu kita untuk menganalisa, kemudian mengidentifikasi, serta memvisualisasi data kita yang ada di on-prem dan cloud storage dan di cloud storage. Kemudian untuk storage efisiensinya juga itu kita bisa mengoptimalkan itu karena datanya itu terkompres. Jadi uh, low space buat storage-nya sendiri. Kemudian dari sisi security-nya sudah tersedia untuk encryption, ada access user ID, secret key, kemudian ada secure socket layer di dalamnya. Nah, berikut ini adalah gambaran high level design sederhana mengenai hybrid data center menggunakan Veritas dan AWS. Di dalam di gambar ini bisa kita lihat ya kalau ini kitanya data center kita. Kemudian ada net backup konsolnya, ada administrator, protect infrastructure ini bisa terisi seperti VM atau mungkin physical server dan media server. Jadi eh, net backup itu merupakan backup software, backup server maksudnya, yang memang bisa tersedia dalam bentuk software ataupun appliance. Tapi di dalam net backup ini memang ada beberapa komponen penting nih, contoh seperti master, media, dan kliennya. Yang masing-masing mereka punya fungsi sendiri nih. Untuk masternya, ya mereka si masternya ini nanti akan memberikan policy, membuat policy, kemudian akan mencatat log activity dari medianya. Kemudian medianya inilah yang akan membackup klien-kliennya. Nah, di sini gambarnya media servernya itu atau appliance yang modelnya atau server biasa itu sudah terintegrasi dengan Cloud Catalyst. Jadi kita butuh Cloud Catalyst nih untuk bisa ngobrol antara on-premise kita dengan AWS gitu. Nah, data yang dikirim nanti dari media server kita, dari Cloud Catalyst kita juga, itu adalah data yang sudah terkompres. Kenapa kenapa ini menjadi poin yang menurut aku sih bagus ya. Jadi ketika data kita memang udah terkompres atau terdedup lah gitu, data transfer kita tuh jadi lebih ringan. Kemudian dengan adanya multi-stream ini juga eh, kita memungkinkan mengirim data ini secara parsial. Jadi menyesuaikan dengan bandwidth yang tersedia yang ada di sana. Keuntungannya memang hmm, masalah bandwidth-nya jadi lebih ramah, kemudian juga space storage kita juga jadi lebih longgar. Dan data yang dikirim dari media server ini atau ke Catalyst juga itu datanya sudah terencrypt. Kemudian langsung disimpan ke S3 ataupun AI, Snowball ataupun Glacier dan sampai di AWS itu juga datanya di-encrypt kembali sehingga datanya aman. Nah, oke. Jadi itu sekilas saja tentang hari ini. Eh, Bakal dibahas sama teman-teman kita pakar-pakar dari Veritas dan AWS nih yang udah hadir. Ada Kunal Pancal, ada David Cassandra, ada Kumar Nachikita, dan ada Johannes Glenn juga. Terima kasih. Aku kembalikin ke Mbak Tita.
Terima kasih Pak Rosa atas overview-nya siang ini. Saya ingin mengingatkan jika Bapak atau Ibu ada yang ingin bertanya, kita akan membuka sesi tanya jawab di sebelum akhir acara. Jadi ada satu sesi untuk Q&A. Jadi untuk Q&A-nya Bapak bisa chat pada kolom chat. Jadi nanti saya akan membacakan pertanyaan dari Bapak dan Ibu dan nantinya akan dijawab oleh pakar-pakar dari tim Veritas dan AWS. Sebelumnya saya meminta maaf, saya tadi ada kesalahan untuk menyebutkan nama. Saya ingin mengkoreksi di sini yang nantinya akan presentasi untuk Veritas nanti ada Pak Kunal Pancal sebagai Cloud Practice Lead dari Veritas Teknologi dan nanti akan berkolaborate dengan Pak Kumar Nachiketa sebagai Storage Partner Solution Architect from Amazon Web Service. Kita akan mulai pembahasan pertama dari Pak Kunal Pancal sebagai Pak Kunal Panja sebagai partner solution storage partner sorry sebagai cloud practice lead from AWS. Pak Kunal, can you hear me?
Yes, Tita, I can hear you.
Okay, I will share. I will take the ball for you. I will take the ball to you.
Okay.
Kepada Pak Kunal, saya kepada Pak Kunal saya
Kunal, I can't hear. I just want to confirm it's only me or.
No, I can hear you. There wasn't anybody speaking.
Okay, so cool.
Okay, you able to see the slides?
I am.
sorry Pak Kumar and Pak Kunal. For this first slide from AWS first or maybe for the Veritas?
Yeah, it's from me. So I will introduce
okay.
Kumar. Yeah.
Okay, please take your time. Thank
Okay.
you.
I can start now. Okay, selamat siang. Maaf saya tidak bisa bahasa Indonesia, tidak pintar. Jadi saya berbicara dalam bahasa Inggris. Tapi rekan saya, Pak David, akan merangkum dalam bahasa Indonesia ya. So sorry, I will speak in English. In today's session, we will have a look at various use cases that Veritas and AWS jointly solve. But before that, it is good if we can have a clear understanding of the different concepts or the basic concept of AWS infrastructure so that everybody has same understanding of AWS. And after that, we will go into Veritas use cases. So to talk to you about AWS infrastructure concepts, I'm joined by Kumar, who is based out of Singapore with me, and he works for AWS, and he's a storage partner solutions architect. He will walk you through the different concepts of AWS which you need to know in order to have understanding of Veritas use cases. So over to you, Kumar.
Hey, Kunal, thank you so much. And you kind of ditched me. So your Bahasa is good. So Salamat Siang, everyone. And everyone has introduced me, so I'll not take much time. Kumar Nachiketa, based in Singapore, work for AWS. So Kunal, you will help me advancing the slides, right? Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to assume that everyone is aware what AWS is. So I wanted to start with a quick introduction. And we are broadly adopted cloud platform in a nutshell. So if I have to talk about the different type of organization who are using AWS, it's from different sizes, be it enterprise or a startup. Every kind of customer is using AWS in a very, very meaningful way. I can think of a few names on top of my head, like TBS Bank Singapore, National Australia Bank, or Globe Telecom Philippines, Singapore Airline, and Grab Singapore as a startup. So in terms of model, AWS provides on-demand delivery of technology services via the internet. So you don't have to pay anything upfront. It's pure pay as you go. Next slide, Kunal. So we always try to show and kind of we feel good about the customers who are on our platforms. So these are few of our customers in ASEAN. And if you are interested in a particular industry, in a particular segment, in particular geo, then we have a lot of use cases and case study which you can go through. But there are a few logos which are not there, which I just wanted to quickly call out. I recently learned about Clue in Indonesia. They are an IoT smart city ecosystem. They're using AWS platform for their mobile application and managing their dashboard. And they have mentioned that they reduced time to market by 50% with this streamlined deployment process. The second example is Vivere Group, which is again an Indonesian conglomerate. They offer a total solution for all interior and furnishing needs. They have migrated their SAP ERP on AWS, and they have increased speed by 40%, saved about 25% annual infrastructure. So just to give you a sense on how and why customers are moving from all the segments. And when, next slide, please, Kuda. So just to give you a sense, this is the broad category of services on AWS. So you can use these services to build and run kind of virtually any type of application. Maybe from infrastructure technologies like compute, storage, and databases to emerging technologies such as, let's say, machine learning, artificial intelligence, data lake and analytics, Internet of Things. So if you want to build anything on AWS, you just need to choose the right tool for the job. And as I advance, then I would definitely get into the specific use cases which we and Veritas bring together. But the first thing when someone is hearing about AWS for the first time and and just introduced with a lot of services and feature, the first natural curiosity is what powers these services? What's underneath? So we have a concept of global infrastructure, which covers about 245 countries and territories. So let me introduce you to region and AZ concept, and that'll actually help once Kunal is explaining some of the use cases and architecture. Next slide, please, Kunal. So this is the region. So a region is a physical location in the world where we have multiple availability zones. For example, Singapore and Sydney are our region. And then we have availability zone. We also call it AZ, which consists of one or more discrete data center, each with redundant power, networking, and connectivity. And these are housed in separate facilities. Each region also has two independent, fully redundant transit centers, which kind of allows traffic to cross the AWS network and enables region to connect to the global network. You can call it backbone network. And AZ concept is quite important to understand because that'll be the basic place or basic starting point where we will start building the infrastructure. So let's talk a bit more about availability zone or AZ. Next slide, please, Kunal. So as I said, each availability zone is a fully isolated partition of the AWS global infrastructure. This means it is physically separate. This means it's physically separate from any other AZ by a meaningful distance, by many kilometers, but not beyond 100 kilometers. And each AZ has its own power infrastructure. All AZ are interconnected with high bandwidth, low latency networking over a fully redundant dedicated metro fiber. So this provides high throughput, low latency networking between AZ. So availability zone gives you the ability to operate production application and databases that are more highly scalable, fault tolerant, and scalable. So there would be some scenarios where you want to deploy in HA mode. So you would probably choose 2AZ. And that'll be the basic construct behind some of the solution which we would talk today. Next slide, please. So just to give you a sense of the global presence of AWS, this is looks beautiful to me. So this is about 24 launch region now, 245 countries, 76 availability zone. But what I'm excited today is about this. Kunal, next slide. So AWS region is launching soon in Indonesia. On April 3rd, 2019, we announced we will open an infrastructure region in Indonesia by the end of 2021. So opening an AWS region in Indonesia will support the country's fast-growing startup ecosystem, large Indonesian enterprises, and government agencies. We are pretty excited about AWS being a meaningful part of this journey for Indonesia. And the next thing, next slide, please. Next thing, when we are talking about AWS for the first time with the people, we talk about security. So one of the concepts which we talk is a shared security model. But before talking about that, let's try to understand what's the traditional on-premises security model. So this is how it looks, a typical on-premises security model. Right from the hardware, physical infrastructure, to all the software component, maybe a database, compute, to up the layer, whether it's operating system, firewall, or any application platform, all of it is the responsibility of you as a customer, or maybe if you are a managed partner, you are managing everything. Once we move to AWS, it becomes different. So next slide, please, Kunal. So in the simply put, we say AWS wants security of the cloud, and customers are responsible for security in the cloud. What does it mean? So first thing first, by moving a workload in AWS or operating in hybrid mode, a lot of undifferentiated heavy lifting goes away. So if whatever is running on AWS, you don't have to worry about the physical infrastructure to the hypervisor layer if you're using compute. And that changes based on the service you use as well. If you're using managed service like RDS or even a service like S3, those are serverless. So it goes even up the layer. So you don't have to worry about redundancy and things like that as well from S3 perspective. But essentially, always understand that what service you're using, and there would be some responsibility for AWS, which so physical and hypervisor level security will always be for AWS. And then for the data itself, you have full control on the way you consume it, who does access your data, things like that. And we provide several features to kind of apply policies which the kind of policy which you would want for your end customer. For example, in S3, we have things like block public access. So the moment you create bucket, it's secure by default. It won't be accessible to anyone if you don't want. And even when you are providing access to S3, there's a lot of ways to control the access by using bucket policies, IAM policies, and things like that. So I just wanted to spend some time on security and just wanted to kind of give that idea that you always have a very, very robust security from our side and the features which empowers you to gain the kind of security which you want. And there are so many customer as a testimony who are running their critical workload on AWS, customers like Capital One. So next slide, please. Scroll. So I want to sum it up that why customers migrate to AWS. And there are a number of reasons. And I gave example of Clue and Vivere groups. And like that, there are millions of active customers who are moving to AWS or they are considering AWS. And the first and foremost reason for most of the customers is cost. And in some instances, we have seen that this is multi-million-dollar savings for some large-scale migration. But it goes beyond cost. Customers often experience decrease in staff productivity. Now you don't have to wait for infrastructure provisioning anymore, right? It powers a true DevOps culture. Another reason is increasing operational resilience, reducing downtime, increasing availability, and increase in operational performance, as you can see in some customer example here. And finally, my favorite one, agility, which gives you the ability to experiment. Several customers have shared their experience where deployment time has gone down significantly, several weeks to a few, and in some cases from years to a few months or few weeks. So the next one is I want to be specific about today's theme, which is about our joint solution. So let me talk quickly about core component of storage solution. So when we see this joint solution together, there are three components. The first one is AWS storage service itself, where we have services like S3, EBS, things like that. And then we have technology partner like Veritas, who have strong integration with our product. So that provides an overall solution to customer. And then the final piece of the puzzle is consulting partner. So they help customer deploy and manage end-to-end business solution, and sometimes also kind of discovering and building a business case that what solution would fit for you. So next slide, please, Kunal. So just a quick overview of our storage platform. And I like to think in three terms. So when we talk about storage, it's not just about storing data. The middle part is how do you store data? The left one is how do you move data on AWS? And the right side is how do you secure and manage data in AWS. So in terms of how do you store data, we have block storage, file storage, and object storage. And for the purpose of today's discussion, I would mostly discuss about object storage, which is the key for integrated with Veritas solution. Each case is important as well because in many solutions we would use EC2 or compute. So that will be the natural integrated storage for those solutions. But S3 provides a lot of ways to integrate with Veritas, and I'll talk a bit more about that. For data transfer method, we basically have two different ways to move data to AWS. One, you could use network, so things like direct connect or over the internet, or there is a way of migrating data using offline method, which is Snowball. And I know in Indonesia, we cannot use Snowball today, but I just want to give that as a concept for now, that in the instances where the network bandwidth is not sufficient, we use Snowball for many customers. Next slide, please, Kunal. So I wanted to spend a bit of time on S3 just to make sure that when Kunal explains his solution, it makes sense when he's talking about different classes. So S3 is our object storage service, and we have 6 different classes in our storage. From left to right, S3 standard is for frequently accessed data, and the rightmost is S3 Glacier Deep Archive, which is for extremely cold data. So think about data which is residing on tapes today, and let's say you are the SLA is maybe 48 hours or beyond, then you would use S3 Glacier Deep Archive, and you would use S3 standard for your active application. And apart from that, we have different classes like S3 standard infrequent access, which is again slightly cheaper than S3 standard, but with the fact that you would not be accessing your data more than once a month or even lesser, then it becomes cheaper. And then S3 one zone infrequent access. For that, I think I should be talking a bit about our storage durability. So by default, this S3 storage spans across 3 availability zone. We talked about availability zone, right? Except this class, S3 one zone infrequent access, which still has spans across 3 facilities, but within an AZ. So why would you use these different classes? This will be based on the access pattern and based on the amount of time you want to store your data, things like that. So natural choice for most of the backup use cases be a Glacier Deep Archive, S3 infrequent access. One zone IA is for most of the time the kind of data which is secondary or big data analytics which can be regenerated. So it's a very high level view, but I want you to take away one thing, that S3 Glacier Deep Archive cost about $2 per terabyte per month. So it's extremely cost effective for many customers. And the other thing is it's very important to choose the right storage class. So when you move from standard to Glacier Deep Archive, the per gigabyte cost decreases drastically, but there are other charges which include which are added. For example, if you retrieve data, you pay. There are minimum storage duration. So just being mindful, and that's where partner like Berca can help to identify the right storage class for right need. All right, so next slide, please, Kunal, because I can talk about this for hours and hours, and it won't be enough. So just to summarize that, for today, specific to the data protection and high availability use cases, we define 4 use cases. Primary storage, which means your application is continuously accessing the data. Then backup and restore, which is typical backup and restore. And archive, we think archive as an active archive where you can access your data whenever you want, but it's lying in some cold storage. And then we have disaster recovery, where AWS is used as a disaster recovery location. And so we have partners who have solution across these different use cases. Not many partners have solution around all the use cases. So I feel good about saying this about our and Veritas partnership, that Veritas has solution across all these use cases. And I want to spend some time in talking about our partnership. Kunal, next slide, please. So 2015 was the first time when Veritas had Amazon S3 integration. And after that, I'm working here for the last 2 years. I'm seeing continuous enhancement, feature introduction. Like last year, we launched Veritas launched NetBackup 8.2, which has integration with Glacier Deep Archive, and they were the launch partner. So pretty strong partnership. They support all S3 classes across some of their solution. And in terms of total cost of ownership, which Kunal will talk in a bit more detail, we find it works quite well. And then there are multiple customer examples, which I'm sure Kunal would go through a few of those. Next slide, please, Kunal. All right, so I want to sum it up from my side, so Kunal can take us through the solutions and use cases. So for Veritas, across all the use cases, these are the different product, and they are available on AWS Marketplace as well. And on the right side, these are the different AWS services where they integrate with. So they have in backup exec and net backup, disaster recovery, VRP, migration, cloud, info. And I think wouldn't do justice to explain this in an eloquent way. So Kunal, over to you. You can take us through the solutions and use cases.
Thank you, Kumar, and Salamat Siang again. So I am the cloud practice lead for Veritas Solutions, and I'm based in Singapore. I cover Asia Pacific and Japan region, and I work closely with regional teams for jointly architecting the solutions for our enterprise customers. So in today's session, we are going to focus on 4 key use cases, which provides some unique value for our enterprise customers. The first one is leveraging AWS S3 storage for long-term retention of data. Next, we'll see about how do you do data protection of cloud native as well as mode 1 workloads in AWS. Third, if customers are looking at decommissioning their secondary data center and want to have AWS as their DR site, then how can Veritas help? And last but not the least, we'll focus on a very interesting use case where if you want to take your mission critical RTO sensitive applications to AWS, then how can Veritas help you? So before I start, every product that I'm going to talk about is available in AWS Marketplace. So it allows for easy deployment for the customers. And the licensing scheme is still bring your own. So you can take your on-prem licenses easily to cloud with that element of portability. So let's start with the first use case of long-term retention. Now, today customers use primarily tape for storing long-term retention data. And long-term retention can mean different things to different verticals. Example, if you are from healthcare, long-term retention means anywhere above 100 years for the lifetime of the patient data. If you are in the banking vertical, long-term retention can mean anywhere from 5 to 10 years. Or if you are from telco vertical, then long-term retention can mean anywhere from 10 to 25 years. So Kumar already talked about S3, right? S3 storage class is a highly durable storage offering from AWS. It is pretty much the industry standard for storing backup analytics or log data. And then In terms of durability, there is 11 nines of durability which AWS claims from an S3 infrastructure standpoint. So how do customers move from paying high maintenance cost for tape and being non-agile to a more nimble, agile mode of leveraging cloud for long-term retention? And we have done a very basic calculation over here. Let's say customer has 100 TB of data with a 20% year over year growth, and their long-term retention is yearly. They are storing data for 5 years. The typical cost difference from on-prem to cloud is a saving of anywhere from 160K to 280K. So you can reduce your capex cost by almost more than 50%. Let's see how. I'm sure most of you are familiar with Veritas Net Backup offering. It's an industry-leading data protection solution present in almost 87% of Fortune 100 companies. Net Backup has a new software offering called Cloud Catalyst. Basically, it's a deduplication gateway, which is tightly integrated with the NetBackup's own deduplication technology. And out of box, it has integration with AWS storage classes of S3, S3IA, and Glacier, which Kumar talked about. As a result of this integration, customers can get very high deduplication rates. And because of this high duplication rate, the data that you transfer over the wire is far less. So what does it mean to you? It means two things. You have to pay less bandwidth cost and less storage cost in the target. Okay. You can move this data movement can be achieved using storage lifecycle policy features of Net Backup, and the entire data movement from Net Backup on-premise to the cloud and back again is seamless. If you are worried about bandwidth availability, then Kumar also spoke about Snowball offering. Snowball to me is very interesting because it's actually a storage box. It's a storage device provided by AWS, and boasts all the enterprise features of any high-end storage array like encryption, etc. What you can do is, if you are tied on bandwidth availability, NetBackup can move the data onto this Snowball device, and AWS can help you courier this or ship this device into the region or their data center. And once this device is in their data center, it will move the data to a S3 class of storage. So here I wanted to share a case study of a semiconductor technology company who wanted to move a ton of their unstructured data to public cloud. Why? Because they were storing this data on tapes, and they had a management requirement to reduce the capex cost. They were a NetBackup customer, and they wanted to move all of these log files, media files, and user reports, which are more than 3 years old, to AWS S3 service. Leveraging NetBackup and its integrated deduplication technology called Cloud Catalyst, they were able to move this data 2 times faster compared to a third-party cloud gateway. And as a result, they saw 50% cost reduction on AWS storage side. Thus, they were able to leverage their existing NetBackup investment and reduce their operational cost. So here I wanted to provide a quick summary. Can I request Pak David to quickly summarize this use case in Bahasa. Pak David, please.
Ya, thank you Pak Kunal. Jadi penjelasan Pak Kunal tadi adalah untuk kita bisa melakukan backup to the cloud, memanfaatkan teknologi yang sekarang dimiliki, misalkan Bapak Ibu sudah menggunakan Veritas Net Backup, kemudian ingin meleverage teknologi AWS S3, kemudian bagaimana caranya? Nah, ini dari Veritas itu kita punya dua pendekatan ya. Satu dengan menggunakan Net Backup Cloud Catalyst, itu akan membuat backup data kita menjadi lebih efektif karena terdapat deduplication. Kemudian pada saat kita mengkirim datanya ke cloud AWS itu akan lebih hemat bandwidth, kemudian juga akan lebih hemat space. Nah, yang kemudian yang selanjutnya, kalau bandwidth kita tadi terbatas, kita bisa memanfaatkan layanan Snowball dari AWS tadi. Itu sebenarnya untuk proses seeding. Jadi seeding itu untuk first replication ya. Jadi first replication ketika data itu baru dikirim pertama kali tentu saja sangat besar. Itu kita menggunakan Snowball dikirim ke AWS data center terdekat, kemudian ditaruh di sana, kemudian Veritas nanti pada backup selanjutnya hanya mentransfer deltanya saja. Jadi ide dari Snowball itu adalah untuk kita bisa seeding pada saat pertama kali. Jadi bukan setiap kali kita backup ke disk dari Snowball kemudian kita bawa, enggak. Jadi untuk seeding pertama kali aja. Oke, Pak Kuna, back to you again. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak David. Terima kasih. So we'll move to the next use case, which is about data protection capabilities of Veritas in AWS. Now, if you have taken your workloads in AWS, meaning if you are taking your on-premise workloads to AWS, you are not consuming the managed components of AWS like RDS, etc. And if you require the same enterprise data protection capabilities which you are enjoying on premises, then you can deploy NetBackup in the cloud, which is available in the marketplace. NetBackup will provide all the same data protection capabilities which we spoke about, and you are enjoying your on-premises environment in the cloud. So this will be 100% bring your own software offering. You can use your existing on-premises licenses as well, assuming you are on capacity license. If you have a 1 petabyte capacity license and on-premise you are consuming 500 terabyte, you can use the remaining 500 terabyte in the cloud as well. NetBackup in the cloud will provide all the same enterprise capability that you are currently using on-premise. It also means that your data protection administrators do not have an additional learning curve. They do not need to learn a new technology, and all your data center processes, your standard operating procedures, they all remain the same. Another thing is starting NetBackup 8.3, if you are having a very RTO critical databases running in the cloud, and let's say you want to utilize a cheaper block storage offering for fast recovery of data, starting NetBackup 8.3, we will allow you to do that. So before 8.3, Cloud Catalyst can only destage data to an object storage bucket. But in 8.3, we also support destaging data to a disk-based or a block-based bucket. The advantage of this will be faster RTO time because there is some amount of delay when it comes to restoring data from S3. Again, remember S3, as Kumar said, it all depends on what kind of data you are storing. So from Veritas side or from Berca side, all we can say is right class for the right data. Depending on the value of your data and the frequency of restore, you can choose the right class of storage, and Veritas Net Backup will give you the flexibility to choose that. You can also have a hybrid data protection architecture where if you are protecting all of these workloads in public cloud, but let's say your company executives or management has a requirement to store a copy of that cloud workload data back to on-premises, meaning outside that infrastructure of AWS, you can easily deploy another NetBackup instance on premises, and you can bring that data out from cloud and have a copy back on premises. The vice versa workflow can also be true, meaning you can take your on-premises workload, replicate it to a cloud, and have a copy in the cloud ready for either testing or disaster recovery or compliance reasons. I wanted to share a case study of such a customer. So this customer has deployed their supply chain management application based on SAP and SAP HANA as the database, and they use Veritas Net Backup and Cloud Catalyst to protect that SAP deployment in the cloud. Remember, SAP HANA has very high throughput requirements, so they tried third-party data protection softwares but couldn't really meet the throughput requirements, and then they went up with Veritas Net Backup. They also have a requirement of compliance, meaning this SAP HANA database should have a copy of it outside of AWS Cloud into customer's own data center for compliance. That's why they use NetBackup's auto image replication feature, so they can replicate the data backups which are done in the cloud to on-prem, and the catalogs on both the NetBackup instances are also updated. So for whatever reason, if they lose connectivity to AWS infrastructure, they always have a fully restorable copy of data on premises stored on a secure disk storage of their choice. So this is how they achieve compliance in a hybrid cloud architecture using NetBackup. So that was about mode 1 workloads, meaning bring your own workloads. Sometimes your data protection policy says that you are okay to use snapshot style data protection. Or maybe you are consuming hosted workloads or PaaS workloads out of AWS, and you want something more than the native snapshot protection which AWS already offers. In that case, what Veritas gives you is called Veritas Cloud Point. It's a cloud native data protection solution for workloads which require snapshot style data protection. Now you must be thinking what Veritas offers beyond the snapshot protection which is already offered by the cloud vendors. Using CloudPoint, you can have more enterprise features on top of what is natively already available. So we leverage all the APIs provided to us by AWS, and you can schedule the snapshots based on your data protection policies. And CloudPoint will also automatically delete the snapshot if they are expired. So in that way, we help you to also save some storage cost on AWS. This kind of protection really is suitable for very fast or very strict SLAs where a fast RTO is required for creating multiple instances of the data. And CloudPoint is fully integrated with NetBackup, so you don't have to deploy another software. It is all centrally managed from NetBackup user interface using RESTful APIs as well. So you can create your custom snapshot workflows using CloudPoint. How CloudPoint really works is it's a very small instance compared to NetBackup, because NetBackup provides far more enterprise capabilities. So it's slightly heavy when you deploy it in the cloud. But if you're looking at a lightweight offering for snapshot style data protection, then CloudPoint is the software for you. It automatically discovers all the available virtual machines and creates application consistent snapshot copies. The metadata of each snapshot is also centrally tagged for classification. If you want to replicate that snapshot to other cloud regions for disaster recovery in an application consistent state, then CloudPoint allows you to do that. Let's see a quick demo of how CloudPoint works. Okay. So this is the CloudPoint user interface, and you can access it from a NetBackup itself. You want to control the instances or protect the instances of virtual machines which are stored on AWS. So these virtual machines are automatically discovered. You can select the virtual machine which you want to do a snapshot of or protect it. And then it allows you to choose the backup frequency and retention time for each of the snapshot plan. And that's it. Your cloud virtual machines are protected. So it's a super easy 3-step process of protecting cloud native workloads. And it also provides enterprise capabilities of single file restore, role-based access control, RESTful APIs, etc. And now what we are going to do is have various recovery points available to us, and I can choose a recovery point of my interest. I can choose to restore it in the original region or an alternate region of my choice. So that you see, it's a very easy to use protect and restore mechanism for all cloud native workloads. And you get all the additional enterprise capabilities of RBAC, single file restore or granular restore, classification, etc. So can I again request Pak David to summarize this use case of data protection in the cloud using NetBackup in the cloud or CloudPoint in the cloud? Pak David?
Sure, Pak Kunal. Thanks. Jadi Bapak Ibu, setelah kita tadi di sesi pertama itu kita kan lihat ada backup to cloud ya. Nah, kalau sekarang ini bagaimana adalah hybrid. Jadi kita melakukan backup di on-prem ya. Kemudian kita juga sudah ada beberapa workload yang sudah dideploy di atas compute AWS dalam format EC2. Nah, Veritas di sini menjembatani antara backup on-prem dan juga backup yang berada di AWS. Metode backupnya tadi ada dua. Yang pertama kita bisa menggunakan agent base. Tadi contohnya dari Pak Kunal menggunakan contoh SAP HANA. Kemudian ketika kita backup menggunakan agent base, kita tetap bisa menyimpannya di AWS S3 untuk lebih cost efektif. Jadi SAP HANA-nya kan adanya di storage yang lebih mahal, tadi flash atau SSD. Kemudian untuk backupnya bisa masuk ke dalam S3. Dan tentu saja ada dedupnya juga. Nah, Metode kedua adalah dengan menggunakan metode snapshot yang terakhir ditunjukkan tadi demonya, yaitu dengan menggunakan CloudPoint. Nah, kelebihan CloudPoint di sini adalah dia bisa mengcapture secara konsisten, baik itu data ataupun aplikasi yang kita support ya. Kemudian snapshotnya itu Bapak Ibu jangan khawatir, wah Pak kalau snapshot itu berarti kan masih ada di dalam storage yang mahalnya dong Pak, gitu ya, di apa ya, ini kalau nggak salah EB2 ya. Nah, masih ada di dalam storage yang mahalnya. Nah, cara kerja kita adalah setelah kita snapshot, itu kita bisa pindahkan juga ke storage yang lebih cost efektif. Apa itu? Yaitu AWS S3. Nah, jadi solusi data protection kita itu mengcover backup to cloud, hybrid, ya, dan juga backup in cloud. Okay, back to you, Pak Kunal. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak David. Moving on to the next use, which is leveraging AWS as a DR target. This is a very interesting use case because increasingly customers who do not have invested in a secondary data center and have a compliance requirement to have a DR site, they would look for something that is available on demand or as a service. And that's where AWS's infrastructure can be leveraged for your on-prem workloads as a DR target. Let's look at what Veritas has to offer. On-premise environments can be different for different customers. There is no one customer on this call who will say, my on-premise data center is only VMware, or I use only physical systems, correct? That's not going to be possible. So on-premises or on your private cloud, you may have physical and virtual systems. Your physical systems can be based on Linux or Windows, and based on your vendor strategy, you can also have VMware virtual machines or Hyper-V virtual machines. Veritas Resiliency Platform is a 100% software offering, so it comes as a virtual appliance which you deploy on source as well as target site. Depending on your policies, a lot of customers tell me that we are looking at one solution which does DR automation for private cloud to private cloud and private cloud to a public cloud. Why? Because there are some workloads which they say we cannot run in public cloud for whatever reason. We don't get into that, but if they are looking at a single solution for private as well as hybrid cloud DR automation, then Veritas Resiliency Platform allows you to do that. You can replicate VMware, Microsoft Hyper-V, or physical systems to AWS based on logical entity, which we call virtual business service. So you can group the virtual machines which are related to each other, like database, application, and web, and then you can do a one-click migration to AWS. Or if you want to leverage AWS as a DR site, then VRP allows you to do reverse replication also. So you can move the workload to AWS, and if you write some new data in AWS, it will be reverse replicated back to on-premises also. VRP provides some very unique benefits to the customers. One is you can have predictable recovery. So VRP allows you to recover from a net backup copy in the cloud or from a replicated copy in the cloud. In the first use case, we saw how NetBackup can be leveraged to move data to public cloud. But if you want to spin up compute based on that backup data in the cloud, or you want to test your backup in the cloud, VRP allows you to do that with a degree of automation. If you have this capability of testing your backup copies in bulk in an automated way, it addresses the compliance requirement of your organization. A lot of time customers say that a backup is not foolproof unless and until you restore it, or a workload is not DR ready unless and until you test it. But both of these things, you can do it without impacting your production using VRP. VRP's automation engine allows you to automate your complex runbooks, meaning if you want to recover a service or do DR of a service, it's highly complex. Let's imagine a 3-tier web service: database, application, web. You need to first move the database, run some script to do database consistency check, then start the application, change the IP, change the DNS entries, and then update the web services. All of this can be automated using the VRP's automation engine. Being a single platform for private to private cloud recovery and private to public cloud recovery, it enables customer to lower down their operational costs. So you can choose based on your workload criticality, you can choose to have workloads do DR in your private cloud or public cloud environment. And the ability to have seamless reverse replication from the cloud makes this whole mobility and DR very easy. Let's look at an example of how VRP works with NBU to do point-in-time recovery in AWS. So this is the use case which I first talked about. NetBackup master server, media server, and NetBackup instance replicating to AWS S3 storage. Now, if you want to test these backups in AWS, you can deploy VRP software appliances on premises and in the cloud, and then using VRP appliances, you can actually spin up copies of this data in the cloud. Maybe you want to test some application or do some development, you can create a full copy in the cloud. Or you want to just DR certify your backups, meaning do a DR test of these backups. Then you can use the rehearsal functionality of VRP to do these rehearsals from a backup data. So remember, this is leveraging NetBackup to spin up workloads in AWS. Another way can be you want to replicate the data to cloud. So you don't want backup copy, you don't want point-in-time copy, you want real-time copy of virtual machines and physical systems in the cloud. In that case, you deploy VRP appliances or virtual appliances on premises. It has replication appliance and an appliance for discovery and dashboard also. This appliance talks to another appliance in AWS, and all your data is initially stored in S3. VRP also supports storing of data in ABS, but as you heard Kumar saying, and we also recommend, using S3 is a better choice because of its very high durability. So all the data that is generated on premises is stored in S3 first, and in an event you want to do DR, let's say your on-premise data center loses connectivity or there is an issue in your on-premise data center, with one click you can move all your workloads in a sequence and then VRP will automatically create EC2 compute in the cloud, and the data from S3 is moved into an EBS volumes which are attached to EC2 with all the network customizations. So you can automatically change IP, update the DNS, etc. This is a DR scenario. But again, if you just want to do a DR drill or a simulation of your data, VRP allows you to rehearse the same data using snapshot copies also. During this rehearsal, your production is fully functional, it's fully active, and then there is no downtime. The same architecture also applies to physical systems, because you may be thinking, what about physical systems? How do you do the replication? In that case, we install a very small agent which runs inside the operating system kernel of the OS, and then entire flow from there remains the same. So we tap the IO which is coming into the operating system, and the replication gateways on each side, on premises as well as in the cloud, are responsible for data replication. Everything else remains the same. So I wanted to share a case study of these Japanese document management company called Kyocera. On premises, they had VMware and Microsoft Hyper-V. On VMware, they had about 80 virtual machines, and Microsoft, they had about 40 or 45 virtual machines. They did not have a secondary data center, but they wanted to leverage AWS's IaaS offering as a DR site. Using VRP, they were able to have a single solution for both VMware and Hyper-V to leverage AWS as a DR target. The entire solution worked very seamlessly because of its tight integration with AWS. As you know, AWS also has a lot of best practices which it recommends for its technology partners. And VRP has benefited immensely by architecting the solution by leveraging those best practices, or what AWS calls as well-architected framework. So can I again request Pak David to do a quick summary of this use case of DR or migration to AWS? Pak David?
Sure, Pak Kunal. Jadi setelah kita backup to cloud, backup in cloud, dan juga hybrid infrastruktur, nah sekarang kita memanfaatkan kolaborasi antara Veritas dengan AWS, yaitu sebagai DR to cloud, atau kita ingin melakukan migration ke AWS. Sorry? Hello? Yeah.
We can hear you, Pak Teddy.
Okay. Suddenly is muted. Okay. Jadi konsep yang kita gunakan adalah kita memanfaatkan memanfaatkan backup, atau juga memanfaatkan teknologi replication. Jadi ketika kita bicara backup tadi dengan menggunakan net backup, kemudian ada backup to cloud, kemudian juga ada hybrid backup, yang kurang di sana kan adalah orchestration-nya. Bagaimana kita bisa mengorchestrate hasil backup kita menjadi sesuatu yang bisa digunakan untuk solusi DR atau solusi migrasi. Tapi solusi ini tidak harus selalu dalam kondisi DR atau dalam solusi dalam kondisi migrasi. Tadi disebutkan juga bisa dipakai juga untuk rehearsal. Nah, seperti yang Bapak Ibu tahu kan, kalau kita ingin melakukan yang namanya rehearsal atau fire drill di dalam satu company, itu kan menjadi satu kegiatan yang sangat sangat rumit dan juga sangat beresiko. Nah, Dengan menggunakan teknologi dari solusi Veritas, yaitu Veritas Resiliency Platform, kita bisa melakukan rehearsal, fire drill dengan lebih sering, dan nggak cuma itu, dilengkapi juga dengan catatan atau dengan laporannya. Jadi ketika kita melakukan rehearsal dengan melakukan fire drill, kita bisa tahu catatannya. Oh, ketika saya melakukan rehearsal atau failover dari on-prem ke DR, ke AWS, itu butuh waktu sekitar 10 menit. Nah, 10 menit itu juga bisa kelihatan. Komponennya apa aja sih 10 menit? Apakah ketika mematikan aplikasi, menghidupkan aplikasi, replikasi, itu juga akan semua tergenerate makanya disebut di sini automated DR runbooks. Oke, back to you, Pak Kunal.
Thank you, Pa David. So we'll move to the last use case that Veritas has with AWS, and that's about ensuring how you take more of your enterprise critical workloads to AWS, where you need more of application SLAs, which are different than the excellent infrastructure SLAs which AWS already provides. So AWS infrastructure is highly suited for running mission critical workloads. If you look at not just S3, but the kind of SLAs which AWS provides on its EBS block storage and EC2 compute, the various computing options that you get in EC2 and the options you get in EBS, you can definitely find a perfect fit for running any enterprise workload, be it throughput sensitive or IOPS sensitive. On AWS, you can find the right class of infrastructure from compute to the block storage. But apart from this infrastructure SLAs, enterprise workloads like, for example, SAP or Oracle database or a business analytics application like TIBCO or Informatica or even SaaS, they require application monitoring, application failover, etc., which is very complex. And to address this problem, we have Veritas InfoScale. InfoScale is also a 100% software offering. This software offering in Veritas has been around for more than 2 decades plus. It is industry's only software with integrated storage management and application availability. InfoScale works on all kinds of hardware and platforms. So the software runs on top of an operating system. We support various Unix operating system, Linux, as well as Windows. We have deep integration with the infrastructures or the platforms on which these systems run on. For example, Nutanix, VMware, or Hyper-V, or even a public cloud infrastructure like AWS. So using this software, you can enjoy complete abstraction from the underlying hardware and move your workloads independently between these infrastructures and enjoy the same application recovery procedures. Out of box, InfoScale provides integration with all major databases and middleware, so you don't have to write your own script, which is typically very error prone. And it is a single software to address any SLA. You can have local high availability. You can create a metro architecture, like a hybrid architecture with on-prem and AWS, or you can have a disaster recovery architecture with geo-level isolation, meaning maybe from one AWS region to another AWS region. So how InfoScale allows you to take your critical workloads to AWS is, first and foremost, it offers a high performance shared file system on EBS volumes. If you know AWS, then EBS and EC2 are like a direct connect storage. Okay, it's not like physically connected. Of course, there are APIs from EC2 which talk to the EBS volumes, but it's very different from a traditional SAN infrastructure which you see on premises. So InfoScale is a software-defined storage offering which helps you to create a shared nothing scale-out cluster on EC2, so your applications can have active data access across these different EC2 instances. You can easily do data migration between two AZs, meaning between two availability zones, or between two AWS regions also. So the software has built-in data replication capabilities at block level. You can do synchronous as well as asynchronous, or you can do a file level replication technology also. And this replication is completely agnostic to the workload. So you can run database or any unstructured workload. The replication would work just fine. If you are looking at recovering workloads, let's say when your Indonesia region of AWS goes live and mission critical workloads require geo level disaster recovery. So if you want to have Singapore's AWS region as DR site for these critical workloads, InfoScale allows you to set up a global cluster between Indonesia region and Singapore region of AWS and provide application level failover capabilities with network customization and DNS customization across these regions. So the failover is completely transparent to your client. Or you can also have a hybrid architecture, meaning you want to leverage AWS as a DR site. Now you may be thinking, so what's the difference between VRP and InfoScale? With VRP, AWS acts as a warm DR target, meaning the compute is not in the powered on state. So we only replicate to S3 and we bring up compute when you require it. With InfoScale, AWS region acts as a hot DR target. So it's a difference between warm DR and hot DR. In hot DR, your compute is in a powered on state and the overall RTO of failing over is far less when compared to warm DR. So obviously you have to strike a balance between SLA and the dollars you spent on your DR architecture. So let's look at a customer example. This customer is parent company of Coca-Cola. They handle the bottling and global supply chain of the bottling for Coca-Cola. So they took their SAP-based supply chain application to AWS, and the architecture was very well dispersed between two availability zones for infrastructure high availability. So all the application and the database instances are under Veritas InfoScale control. So it is continuously monitoring the state of the applications and the databases. And the database was SAP HANA, which is replicated using HANA system replication, which is called HSR. The requirement of this entire application was very complex. So in case the primary database instance goes down, in real time, the application systems has to connect to the secondary database instance, which is in another availability zone. And when primary database instance comes back, the application has to again come back to the primary database instance and stop talking to the secondary database instance. And in an event when you lose connectivity to the availability zone for whatever reason, all the client connections had to automatically move to availability zone 2 SAP instances with IP customization and DNS change. All of this was automatically achieved by Veritas InfoScale. So InfoScale has deep integration with AWS infrastructure components like Elastic IP, Route 53 DNS, EBS volume, etc. As a result, the customer was able to achieve their SLA, which is very strict, of less than 5 minutes annually. So in a year, this application can go down not more than 5 minutes. And at any given time, the RPO between the two availability zone should not be exceeding 30 seconds. And this is how, together, by leveraging the enterprise capabilities of AWS's infrastructure and the application monitoring software of InfoScale, this customer was confidently able to take their SAP-like enterprise critical business service to AWS. They are in production since past 18 months, and till date, they have never faced any glitch, or they haven't complained anything about application performance or infrastructure availability or anything. So with that, can I again request Park David to do a quick summary of this use case?
Yes, sure, Pak Kunal. Jadi, Bapak Ibu, tadi kita bicara backup, sekarang kita naik sedikit levelnya. Jadi kalau backup kan untuk RPO dan RTO yang tidak terlalu kecil. Jadi biasanya untuk backup, itu kan backup sehari sekali. Tapi bagaimana kalau di environment Bapak Ibu ada aplikasi yang sangat kritikal, itu RPO-nya 24 gitu ya, misalkan. Terus harus bisa kembali ke sejam sebelumnya. Nah, disinilah Veritas InfoScale bisa membantu memberikan solusi untuk jawaban RPO dan RTO yang semakin kecil. Nah, kelebihannya ini adalah kalau dulu kita bicara high availability itu adalah di on-prem, sekarang kita bisa lakukan di cloud, di AWS. Karena di AWS juga punya layanan compute yang performance-nya bagus, dan juga punya performance storage yang bagus di EBS. Nah, kalau misalkan ada AWS itu menjamin dari sisi ketersediaan data center, kemudian juga dari uptime-nya dari environment-nya, tapi kalau dengan Veritas Solution, kita menambahkan ke level di atasnya lagi, itu adalah di level application. Jadi bagaimana kita bisa memonitoring application yang running atau yang berjalan di atas environment cloud dari AWS. Dengan seperti itu, batasannya jadi tidak kelihatan lagi. Jadi dari on-prem bisa membuat solusi clustering, bisa membuat solusi DR, atau bahkan di atas AWS bisa membuat solusi cluster juga. Dan itu tidak hanya bisa mengcover satu region. Jadi tadi di awal presentasi Kumar mengatakan bahwa AWS memiliki banyak region, itu bisa juga kita lakukan clustering, replication di atas region-region yang dimiliki oleh AWS. Oke, Pak Kunal, back to you again.
Thank you, Pa David. So that was the last use case which I wanted to share. And now I think it's time for Q&A. So I saw many questions.
Okay, for the session of Q&A, I think after summary from AWS, and I will read Q&A in chat.
Okay, sure. So I will stop sharing. I will pass you.
Thank you, Pak.
Okay, you have it.
Thank you. Thank you to Pak Kumar dan Pak Kunal. Thank you for your presentation. Selanjutnya kita akan mendengarkan summary untuk bagian AWS yang akan disummary oleh Pak Johannes Glenn sebagai Cloud Solution Architect dari PT Berca Hardaya Perkasa. Pak Glenn, dipersilakan.
Oke, hai semuanya. Suara saya kedengeran ya?
Kedengeran, Pak.
Oke, terima kasih untuk kesempatannya. Teman-teman semua bisa hadir saat ini, event yang sangat cukup menarik menurut saya. Kenapa? Karena kita berbicara tentang dua buah teknologi yang kita banyak gunakan saat ini. Yaitu yang pertama kita bicara soal cloud technology, which is kita berbicara tentang AWS, the number one cloud provider in gitu ya. Teman-teman bisa lihat di Gartner, teman-teman bisa lihat how big the size and the technology yang AWS miliki. Dan kedua, mengenai collaborations dengan Veritas, di mana kita bisa menjaga mengenai business continuity, data protections, dan masih banyak hal yang bisa kita gali. I think menurut saya teman-teman dari AWS dan teman-teman dari Veritas sudah banyak berbicara. Mungkin saya hanya menyampaikan sedikit summary karena kita berbicara mengenai AWS, saya sangat ingin emphasize bahwa AWS bukanlah hanya sebuah cloud, gitu ya. Karena kita banyak mengenal cloud, it's another computer, padahal tidak seperti itu. Tadi sangat dijelaskan dengan sangat baik sekali bahwa sangat banyak variasi dari service yang bisa kita gunakan atau kita pikirkan, sehingga kita bisa mencari sebuah solusi yang sangat fit dengan kita, gitu ya. Kita bicara soal IaaS, kita bicara soal PaaS, kita bicara soal SaaS, ada infrastructure as a service di sana. Kita bicara kita mau taruh workload di virtual machine, kita mau taruh data kita di AWS, ada S3 untuk archiving, untuk storing data, ada AC2 and EBS. Kalau teman-teman banyak menggunakan new technology seperti Kubernetes, ada hal-hal yang bisa kita gunakan di sana, ada managed Kubernetes service di sana, either menggunakan ECS ataupun EKS, ataupun jika teman-teman ternyata sudah lebih advance lagi, teman-teman menggunakan serverless, kita juga punya service yang cukup menarik yang bisa dieksplor di sana. Tapi saya tidak mau terlupa, daripada kita menggunakan cloud service, bukan dari teknologinya sendiri, which is AWS can give you a lot of technology di sana, tapi adalah objektif kita kenapa kita move to a cloud. Tadi sangat-sangat baik dijelaskan bahwa ada at least 4 summary yang kenapa orang-orang pindah ke AWS. Yang pertama adalah tentang cost savings. Kita bicara soal bukan hanya mengenai total cost yang bisa kita save, compare to mungkin kita ada beberapa project yang bisa kita calculation TCO-nya, tapi kita bicara soal bisnis model yang berbeda. Ketika kita bicara soal on-premise, mungkin kita bicara soal full OPEX. Tapi kalau kita bicara soal cloud, it's all about OPEX, and kita bayar sesuai dengan penggunaan kita. It's very, very interesting. Pertama, ketika kita memulai sesuatu yang baru, startup, ataupun mungkin untuk enterprise workload kita bisa start dari small, dan kita bisa grow sesuai dengan kebutuhan kita. And we pay only what we use. Gitu. Kita bicara soal productivity, kita bicara soal banyak hal yang bisa kita leverage daripada AWS sendiri, yaitu kita bisa leverage semua maintenance data center kita, hal-hal yang kita mitigate ke AWS, sehingga kita hanya fokus tentang hal-hal yang menjadi penting untuk kita. Misalkan apakah kita mendevelop applications, apakah kita menjaga aplikasi kita, we only focus on those things instead of kita fokus dengan banyak hal yang lainnya. Kita bicara soal operation resiliency, kita bicara soal high availability, terutama dengan kolaborasi dengan Veritas. Kita bicara soal global infrastructure, di mana kalau kita biasa bicara di on-premise, mungkin kita baru bicara soal data center and DRC, tapi teman-teman bisa meleverage data center, which is nanti teman-teman akan berbicara tentang multi-availability zones di Indonesia, maupun kalau teman-teman punya presence di dunia secara global, teman-teman bisa ada higher availability di multi-regions. Yang terakhir kita bicara soal agility, Mungkin ini adalah salah satu yang paling menarik untuk saya. Kenapa? Karena kalau kita bicara soal agility, kita bisa bicara soal bagaimana kita bisa melakukan explorations, bukan hanya untuk mendevelop, kita bisa tes sesuatu yang kita belum sure. Bayangkan ketika teman-teman melakukan tes sebuah aplikasi di on-premise, mungkin kita harus commit di depan, tetapi kalau kita melakukan sesuatu di cloud, kita bisa melakukan development dulu, mungkin setelah 1 bulan atau 2 bulan kita cek apakah development itu cocok atau enggak. Kalau cocok, kita teruskan. There is another options. Nanti kita bisa bicara banyak mengenai ada reserve yang mungkin bisa menjadi cost optimizations. Tetapi kalau kita bicara soal, I think arsitektur ini nggak cocok deh. Saya nggak mau pakai fully VM, tapi saya mau combine dengan Kubernetes. Nah, teman-teman bisa dengan saat itu juga kita deploy another Kubernetes cluster dan kita tes dan kita mendapatkan agility yang sangat-sangat tinggi. So four things: cost savings, productivity, operations resiliencies, dan agility. Terakhir untuk menutup mengenai AWS, karena service-nya luar biasa banyak sekali, mungkin teman-teman satu hal yang saya ingin share adalah the best thing is kita bisa tahu objektif teman-teman seperti apa, dan nanti dari tim AWS maupun dari tim Berca bisa membantu teman-teman melakukan cloud journey, sehingga kita bisa memberikan solusi-solusi yang lebih tepat untuk teman-teman. Mungkin dari saya itu aja, Tita. Saya kembalikan ke Tita lagi pada saat ini.
Terima kasih Pak Glenn. Terima kasih sudah memberikan summary kepada kita semua. Dari Pak David, ada yang mau ditambahkan Pak?
Dari saya sih paling kita ingat tadi aja 4 hal ya. Jadi data protection itu bisa terjadi di mana aja ya, di on-prem, hybrid ataupun di cloud, khususnya di AWS. Kemudian juga high availability, kemudian juga DR. Itu juga bisa kita manfaatkan teknologi cloud AWS. Jadi jangan khawatir kalau misalkan dari Bapak Ibu environment-nya itu misalkan masih on-prem, lalu ingin menuju ke cloud itu bagaimana sih? Nah, nanti dari kami, Berca, Veritas, dan AWS itu bisa membantu Bapak Ibu sekalian untuk bisa men-achieve journey to the cloud-nya. Nah, dari saya sih itu aja, kita.
Terima kasih Pak David. Oke, thank you Pak Kumar, thank you Pak Kunal, terima kasih untuk Pak Johannes Glenn, dan terima kasih untuk Pak David Cassandra sudah memberikan kita pemaparan, kita pembahasan yang cukup menarik menurut saya cukup menarik. Jadi bisa memberikan kita wawasan lebih banyak lagi. Oke, sesi selanjutnya kita akan lanjutkan di pertanyaan ya Pak ya. Mungkin tadi udah ada beberapa pertanyaan yang datang dari Bapak Ibu semua, dan sudah ada yang dijawab oleh Pak Johannes Glenn atau Pak David. Tapi di sini saya coba bacakan lagi ya Pak ya. Jadi Pak David sama Pak Glenn, saya minta tolong bantuannya untuk memaparkan lagi, karena kalau di Q&A yang bisa baca hanya kita sama customer-nya aja, sama yang chat aja Pak. Boleh ya Pak ya? Ada pertanyaan dari Bapak Bagit Erlangga. If we want to use backup on AWS Cloud, do we have to own Veritas appliance first on premise? Mau Pak Glenn atau Pak David yang jawab ya Pak ya?
Ya, saya aja yang jawab. Jadi seperti yang tadi saya sudah sampaikan juga ya di kolom question and answer, semua yang kita tampilkan di sini atau paparkan di sini itu ada versi softwarenya. Bahkan kita bisa implement di atas virtual machine. Jadi tidak perlu dalam format atau bentuk appliance. Jadi kayak tadi misalkan, wah saya tertarik nih dengan fungsi net backup, Cloud Catalyst. Tapi apakah Cloud Catalyst ini bentuknya adalah hardware atau appliance? Tidak ya. Jadi Cloud Catalyst sendiri itu merupakan software base. Kita juga ada sih versi appliance. Jadi jawabannya tidak harus menggunakan appliance.
Pertanyaan selanjutnya, What is the minimum version of net backup to backup to AWS? Dari Pak Aditya dari Bumi Resource kalau nggak salah. Iya.
Ya, jadi kalau kita tadi memperhatikan fungsi-fungsi Cloud Catalyst, bisa deduplication sebelum dikirim dalam pengiriman data backup ke cloud gitu ya, dan menghemat space juga. Nah, itu kita mulai di versi 8 ya. Jadi kalau versi sebelumnya bagaimana? Kalau versi sebelumnya sudah mensupport juga untuk backup ke cloud. Hanya saja itu tidak ada fungsi atau fitur dari Cloud Catalyst. Jadi kalau Bapak adalah customer Veritas yang sudah menggunakan net backup dengan maintenance renewal yang masih aktif, itu silakan di-upgrade saja ke versi yang terbaru. Kita sekarang di versi 82, maka dengan demikian kita bisa manfaatkan fungsi dari Cloud Catalyst tersebut.
Pertanyaan lagi Pak, backup file servers on Linux Ubuntu bisa tidak ya Pak?
Bisa. Jadi Veritas kita jangkauannya luas ya, mulai dari Windows, Linux, dan juga Unix, dan Linux sendiri juga kan, Linux bermacam-macam. Bahkan sekarang kita juga support untuk membackup OpenStack. Jadi bisa untuk Ubuntu. Nah, tapi kalau ditanya versi-versi berapanya, nanti dari Bapak bisa cek sendiri ya, bisa googling misalkan net backup, software compatibility list. Nah, nanti di situ listnya akan lebih detail, mulai versi berapa yang kita support sampai ke berapa gitu. Oke.
Pak, ada pertanyaan lagi dari Pak Sigit Yogiantoro. Apa keunggulan dari Veritas dibandingkan dengan produk backup yang lainnya?
Iya, sebenarnya keunggulan kita sih yang paling nyata adalah satu adalah reputasi kita ya. Veritas Net Backup itu kita udah 30 tahun untuk memproteksi data customer, dan kita selalu berada di Gartner Quadrant Leader. Dan kita selalu evolve ya, mulai dari legacy ya, legacy itu apa ya, physical server ya, kemudian virtualization, dan juga sampai ke cloud. Dan nggak hanya sampai di sana, sekarang dari dulu backup itu sudah mensupport untuk kegiatan DR. Akan tetapi mengorkestrate-nya bagaimana? Nah, sekarang di net backup yang bulan Juli ya, direncanakan akan launching versi 8.3, net backup yang sekarang ini sudah punya orchestration untuk failover dari DC ke DR dengan memanfaatkan hasil backup. Nah, jadi kalau ditanya kelebihannya apa ya, kita semakin banyak fitur-fiturnya, dan jadi buat existing customer kita yang sudah pakai net backup, kita bisa get along dengan roadmap dari IT mereka. Gitu.
Terusnya automation VRP itu apakah mirip dengan SRM ya Pak? Ini kayak untuk pembahasan AWS ya Pak ya?
Ya, jadi kalau misalkan, nah ini kekurangannya. Jadi kalau misalkan SRM ya, ini kan hanya untuk, ya saya sebut aja ya, VMware ke VMware. Tapi kalau misalkan Bapak pingin VMware-nya sampai ke AWS gimana? Gitu kan. Bahkan saya dulu ada satu customer saya yang pertanyaannya cukup lugu gitu ya. Pak, ketika Bapak bilang bisa replicate ke AWS ya, itu artinya saya di AWS mesti install ESX ya Pak, hypervisornya VMware. Enggak, bukan begitu cara kerjanya. Jadi yang di on-prem tetap VMware, yang di on-prem tetap physical server, tapi yang di cloud itu tetap bentuk formatnya dari EC2 instance dari AWS. Nah, disitulah kelebihan dari VRP, Veritas Resiliency Platform, menjembatani berbagai macam platform. Jadi nggak cuma single platform gitu, ya. Itu penjelasannya.
Mungkin pertanyaannya saya sudahi dulu Pak. Nanti kalau seandainya ada pertanyaan tambahan lagi,
Iya, iya.
nanti saya akan coba. Oh, tunggu sebentar ada. Oke. Oh, ada pertanyaan menarik Pak dari Bapak Ibrahim Surawardi. Pertanyaannya ini mengenai AWS sih. Sehubungan dengan aturan pemerintah bahwa ada aturan data-data migrasi tidak boleh disimpan di luar negeri, kapan AWS akan membangun data center di Indonesia? Mungkin ini porsinya Pak Glenn kali ya Pak ya. Boleh Pak?
Oke,
Silakan
Atau
Pak.
halo Tito.
boleh?
Iya Pak.
Albert,
Oke.
boleh? Pak Albert.
Oke.
Oke, dengan Pak Albert senior partner manager. Silakan Pak Albert.
Ya, terima kasih untuk pertanyaannya. Kebetulan data center AWS seperti tadi juga sudah disebutkan sama Pak Kumar, itu adalah data center akan siap tahun depan di 2021. Jadi kita sudah umumkan di tahun 2019 bahwa kita akan buka data center di tahun 2021. Dan kalau misalnya memang menginginkan link beritanya, itu bisa kita provide.
Oke, baik. Terima kasih Pak Albert. Untuk next pertanyaan selanjutnya mungkin nanti akan saya coba email ke tim AWS dan Veritas karena mengingat sudah waktu yang sudah mepet. Oke, kita lanjut selanjutnya ke kuis ya Bapak Ibu ya. Kita akan mengadakan kuis. Kuisnya nanti 3 pemenang paling tercepat dan paling benar akan mendapatkan special gift dari Veritas dan AWS. Nanti akan Berca kirimkan ke masing-masing alamat para pemenang. Nanti di akhir acara saya akan mungkin setelah acara ini saya akan email untuk meminta alamat dari para pemenang. Kita pakai Quizy. Oke. Bisa lihat screen saya? Jika memang saya masukkan di chat, saya kirim linknya di chat ya Bapak Ibu ya. Baru 6 yang sudah 7 peserta dari 65. Kita masih tunggu sekitar 2 menitan. 11, 12. Ayo lanjut. Lumayan Pak. Ayo Bapak Ibu, silakan join di kuis ini. Sudah ada 20. 25. Oke, kita tunggu 30 menit lagi. Bapak Ibu, masih mau ada yang join? Kita tunggu 30 detik lagi. Oh, I see. Ternyata terbatas untuk 25 orang saja ya. Sudah maksimal. Mohon maaf, ternyata cuma maksimal sampai 25 orang saja, Pak, Ibu. Ternyata aku nggak bisa nambahin lagi. Kita start aja dulu ya. Boleh ya, Pak, Bapak, Ibu, mohon maaf. Kita coba dulu. kita mulai. Iya, Bapak Teguh berada di peringkat pertama, Bapak Bagit ada di peringkat kedua, dan Ibu Donia mungkin ya, dia ada di peringkat ketiga. Ayo terus. Oke, selamat untuk Bapak Teguh Wahyudi, Bapak Bagit, dan Ibu Donia mungkin ya. Tunggu, iya betul Bapak Teguh Wahyudi, Bapak Bagit, dan oke, kita lanjutkan dengan feedback form ya Pak ya. Tunggu sebentar. Untuk feedback formnya, sebentar. Ya, sebelum feedback form, dari tim AWS and tim Veritas akan memberikan sambutan sebelum kita closing. Untuk ada di sini dari perwakilan dari tim AWS ada Pak Albert sebagai Senior Partner Manager. Dear Pak Albert, dipersilakan Pak.
Ya, terima kasih Tita. Buat teman-teman yang sudah datang ke webinar ini, terima kasih sekali atas sudah menyediakan waktu di harinya yang sibuk untuk hadir di sini. Terima kasih juga dari teman-teman Berca dan teman-teman Veritas untuk mengorganisir event ini. Kalau ada pertanyaan bisa langsung juga diarahkan ke tim Berca. Nanti juga kalau memang diperlukan tim Berca akan loop in kita. Dan saya juga ingin mengucapkan terima kasih kepada para speaker, yaitu Pak Kumar Nachiketa, Pak David, dan Pak Kunal. Terima kasih semuanya. Thank you Tita. Kembali ke Tita.
Terima kasih Pak Albert. Dan selanjutnya ada Mrs. Jeda Lam as a Regional Alliance and Strategic Partner. Just wait a moment. Wait, I will unmute Mrs. Jeda. Okay, Mrs. Jeda, can you hear my voice? You can speak.
Yes, I can. Thank you, Tita. Thank you. Well, I'm Jada and I am from Veritas. I manage the alliances and strategic partners for Southeast Asia. As I sit in this webinar for the past 2 hours, first of all, big thank you for the patience. Sitting through a webinar for 2 hours is not easy, and yet I'm very, very glad that despite the 2 hours long webinar, there are many questions being posted on the Q&A, and that you guys actually actively took part in the quiz. Thank you very much, and congratulations to the winner as well. And all of you really paid attention. Well, this is the first time we are working with Berca and AWS to run such a webinar in Indonesia. So as you can see from the various presenters, our solution goes beyond just backup. Yeah. From the cloud story that we told, that Kunal and Kumar shared, nothing stopped you from engaging Veritas through Berca on any cloud conversation that you may have with your customer. So we can see many of you, there are many of you in this webinar. So I'm looking forward to even more cloud opportunities together with you and AWS, and Berca is definitely well positioned to deliver the joint solutions to you. So with that, I thank you and I hope you have a great evening ahead. Thank you, Tita.
Thank you, Mrs. Jeda. Oke, kita lanjutkan untuk feedback form. Oke, Bapak Ibu, mohon bantuannya untuk mengisi feedback form dari keseluruhan event acara. Saya akan mengirimkan chat di linknya. Saya akan mengirimkan link di chat di Toolsbox. Wait. Sudah terlihat ya untuk itu aku screen barcode untuk itu. Jadi Bapak bisa scan barcode dari handphone masing-masing atau dari link yang saya berikan. Rangkaian acara ini sudah selesai Bapak Ibu, dan saya sebagai terima kasih untuk kehadiran Bapak Ibu pada event Berca Hardaya Perkasa hari ini, dan ditunggu kehadirannya untuk next event berikutnya dari rangkaian web series Berca Hardaya Perkasa. Sekali lagi terima kasih banyak untuk menyempatkan waktunya, dan jangan lupa untuk mengisi feedback form. Terima kasih banyak. Terima kasih banyak Pak, Bapak Ibu. Sampai jumpa, sampai ketemu lagi. I hope you all safe. And thank you. Terima kasih banyak.
Thank you everyone.
Terima kasih.
Thank you.
Untuk Bapak Teguh, Bapak Bagit, dan Ibu Donia, kayaknya Bapak Doni A deh, kayak bukan Ibu, maaf Pak. Boleh tolongkan chat ke saya alamat emailnya, nanti saya akan uh, email ke Bapak untuk meminta alamat pengiriman untuk special gift-nya. Terima kasih.